Now, Hyderabad has been a top performer in the startup ecosystem for many years, and the fintech ecosystem in the state is going strength to strength. The nucleus of this strength lies with a number of fintech startups that are quietly working towards creating an inclusive ecosystem for fintechs in the state. This session will focus on some of the most pertinent points in the journey of fintechs from Telangana. This panel is moderated by Chakrapani Sakumala, co-founder of Kenvault. Joining Chakrapani on the panel is Neeraj Pansel, co-founder and chief executive officer, Credright. Another panelist here is Shiva Prasad, founder and chief executive officer, Makspay. Abhishek Banerjee, co-founder of Lotus Dew, and Rahul Jain, co-founder of AllCloud. Welcome to the panel, everyone. Looking forward to an amazing panel discussion with all of you. With that, I would like to pass the mic to our session moderator, Chakrapani, who will take the sessions forward. Over to you, Chakri.
Thank you, Amit. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Constellar for hosting this FinTech Festival India at Hyderabad. I mean, post second wave of the pandemic, this event is the first of its own kind in creating a hybrid experience, having virtually online as well as offline. And I would also like to thank all the audience who have logged in and who are listening to us and trying to get more insight into our journey and how we are able to leverage the local players in the ecosystem. With this, I would like to introduce about myself and about my company and what is our journey that we have passed through and typical challenges that we faced and how within the ecosystem of local players, how we are able to drive this to far excellence. And then I will introduce the panel and who is going to talk about their expertise and how they have overcome the challenges. So, as I said, myself, Chakrapani Sakumala, I co-founded Kenvault along with my school friend, Kiran Srinivas, who is the CEO of this company. Kenvault predominantly started with the initial product as a peer-to-peer lending platform, offering financial transactions to cash size starting from 1,000 to 10 lakhs. And then we varied our solutions into multiple dimensions and multiple ranges of greenfield solutions across agri-tech, fintech, and insurtech. Okay, so I would like to give a little background and a brief kind of our journey. So how we started and what are the challenges that we faced when we tried to overcome this. So initially when we started, these are the early days around 2016 and 15. When we are trying to set up peer-to-peer lending platforms, the regulations are not very clear in terms of the payment methodologies, what kind of people we need to onboard and what kind of customers we need to engage. So it's kind of a diversified field. Everyone are trying to explore and the platforms are not so vulnerable. There are a lot of legacy systems. There is no open knowledge or source of information that is available. So, I mean, we literally have to look out for each of the regulatory information, number one. Number two, how do you ensure your data? I mean, because these are all about the financial data, right? And financial data has to be very secure. And especially the cost for theft is at high vulnerability. So we need to look at the security aspects of data. We need to look at following the guidelines from the government and all credit policies. And thirdly, you need to also build platform, right? And if our main focus is to build a peer-to-peer lending platform, our focus should be as an entrepreneur, as a tech-related platform, we should focus on that. But what happens in this journey is we used to spend most of our time and effort getting diverged into all these credit policies, all these regulations and understanding most of these things which we need to depend on some other people. And at the end of the day, we are spending most of the time and effort not on the main goal of our vision, but on the we are diversified into the other part of the areas. So then what we tried to do is we didn't leave our learnings just to us, and then we started to identify what are the problematic areas. We reached out to local players, I mean, who are already operating or who are trying to get onboarded, and we complemented each other. We created a kind of fintech forum. We took help of Telangana government in trying to create a kind of like how we have an MSME forums, we also try to create a kind of fintech forums where people can come on board, engage, and try to explain their problems and how we are complementing each other. It's not about the success of one person, like how we can work together to become successful, and we also take our partners as well as our players within the ecosystem and move towards the next path of becoming unicorns, right? There is always a saying that you can only succeed at home and root first before you succeed anywhere, okay? So that way I think the local presence always will help us in many ways, right? Our journey comes from that challenging environment, but now we have so many people to reach out. People are ready to help. We need not create something from the root or something from the ground level. I mean, you have a network, and the network can help you in many aspects, though it is related to having the right dashboards, right metrics. You don't need to reinvent the tool. I mean, you have all the information. What you need to do is you have a proper vision, plug and play, take it forward. Okay, but while you are going forward, you don't be always alone. You are not always alone. You have a team, just not your team, but you have a common forum like the government, Telangana government, as well as local players here who are ready to help you at any point of time. Okay. With that brief introduction about my journey and how the local players are trying to help, we have a panel of fintech experts here, and we also have industry leaders here who are sitting on the dais along with me. And each of them are going to share their experiences of their journey and what are the challenges during their journey they have faced and how they have overcome and what is the value addition that they are trying to give back to our local players as well as to the complete ecosystem, right? So with this, I would like to introduce our panel, Mr. Neeraj, who is our co-founder and CEO at Credright. We have Mr. Shiva Prasad, who is founder and CEO at Makspay. We have Abhishek Banerjee, co-founder at Lotus Dew, and we have Mr. Rahul Jain, co-founder AllCloud. Thank you everyone and welcome to this forum. And to start with, maybe I would request Neeraj, maybe you can give your experiences, your journey, and your challenges, and how the local players within the ecosystem helped you to move forward, or what is that you want to give back to the local teams here?
Thanks, Shakti. Thank you. Great. I'm really excited to share my story. I'm from Credright. We are into lending to small businesses. I recall an incident which happened with my uncle. His name is Rajesh. I was chatting with him and he wanted a small loan. He was looking for a loan of 7 to 8 lakh rupees. Just to give some background to him, he runs a business which is 15 years plus old. Right? He has a house which is worth 80 lakh rupees in Hyderabad.
Interesting.
Right? And a gentleman with this background wants a loan of 7 to 8 lakh rupees. And I believed, wow, that's very simple. Let's go to a bank. And he said, no, I won't go to a bank. I said, why not? Money comes from bank. He said, no, money comes from chit funds. Right? Telangana is hub of chit funds, registered chit funds. I know, a few unregistered people have given bad name to chit funds as well. But Telangana has great registered chit funds, very well regulated chit funds, ecosystem. So he said, no, money will come from chit funds. I said, impossible. Let's go to bank. I'll get you a cheaper rate, and a loan. So we went. We had a journey of roughly around 2.5 months, an unsuccessful journey of 2.5 months. My uncle couldn't get a loan. Reason being, he didn't have an ITR which could support the 7 to 8 lakh rupees of cash flows. Yeah. He wasn't very comfortable in filling data online. But the thing which struck me most was there was no respect for him in the process. Right? Yeah. The bank managers won't treat him with respect. Nobody would respect his time and effort which he's putting in to get the money. And he's going to pay a fair share of interest on that, right? He's a customer at the end. Yeah. Now, this is what struck me deeply, and we thought we will change this, right? What we will do is, not only will bring easy and fast credit or financial products, but we'll bring it with utmost transparency, and ethics, right? And with respect, because that's what is missing in the whole financial services world. And that's how we started. Now, when we started on the journey, we asked our uncle, why chit funds? right? And then we came to know that chit funds, registered chit funds transact more than 1 lakh crore a year, right? With roughly around 1 crore subscribers, out of which 50 lakh are small small businesses. Imagine out of 6 crore total small businesses in India, 50 lakh depend on registered chit funds, and roughly around 2 to 3 crore depends upon unregistered chit funds. It's a huge ecosystem, and the registered chit funds have ERP systems in place. They record all the transactions. In a data-poor country, there's an ecosystem which has so much data. Small businesses. My uncle himself had 3 chits completed of 30 months tenure, and the chit values were 8 to 10 lakh rupees. Right? So that's the data which was available. So we thought, we'll just go partner with chit funds. And Telangana has, companies like Margdarshi, Kapil, which are the largest chit funds in the country. But very soon we realized chit funds will see us as a competition, right? Because they will think that we are taking their customers away. But we tried as much as possible to be complementary. It didn't work out. There we got a big help from the government, right? Imagine Telangana is the only state where all the chits, all the groups are not only registered but posted online. With one click, you can go and see what all groups are registered in the country, which are active, which all chit funds are registered with the government. You have all the data available. Right?
And also, sorry to just interrupt you for a second. Recently, what I heard was RBI was also looking at some kind of a credit policy where, see, when we say financial freedom, right? Financial freedom also should be associated with the trust. See, when you go to any chit fund, it actually starts with kind of a trust relationships. And it starts with the local, with 3 or 4 people who constantly do the business, right? So, I mean, there is a sizing of a ticket, like if it is around 10,000 or 20,000, if the ticket size is less, I mean, you don't need to look for any documentation. You look at that trustworthy of a person. So I think they are trying to bring in that financial freedom so that we have that sustainability, and you also have some kind of a confidence from the customers that, okay, for every small thing, I don't need to use my XYZ kind of a documentation.
No, and Chakri, I was amazed. There is actually no documentation, right? Apart from KYC. Obviously, you need the PAN card and address proof. But there are no other documents which chit funds take. It's all guarantor-based, all people trust-based, model, right? And that's where we failed. When we went to those chit funds and said, we'll give you analytics. They said, boss, I trust on the guarantors, and that's enough. I don't need your fancy stuff. We tried to tell them, how it helps. It does help, but obviously there's a trust journey which we have to build now with those chit funds. But anyways, coming back to my story, we figured out that chit data is very rich. If you use that, you don't need any other data from the customer. If you marry that with the bank statement and bureau, voila, you have the best credit profile which you can build. And we can give loans as big as 10 lakh rupees based on that completely unsecured. This is what we started. Our product went live in May 2019. We have, disbursed upwards of 50 crores.
Excellent.
Right. We have now around 22 branches in Telangana and Andhra. So we also expanded to Andhra post, our last funding. We're now just starting to go into Tamil Nadu, which is again a big hub for chit funds. But the entire south of India is really well connected on chit funds. Big help from the government. I think one of the most progressive states, there's a company called Chitmonks. They are digitizing the entire, chit fund data by bringing on blockchain. So another help there, once it is ready, I'm sure we can reach out to the government and, ask for the data as well. But I have not seen as progressive, government as Telangana in terms of actually bringing the data online. So big help from there.
And one question I would like to bring in here, like since, as you mentioned that there's a rich set of data involved, right? So because as you know, especially in the chit funds, you have a lot of people, especially in South India, right? You have so many consumers, so many customers. So I'm assuming that in terms of data security and in terms of securing the overall transactions and all, I hope your platforms are taking care and you are working with the Telangana government in helping them in terms of all the policies and all.
Sure.
Right?
No. So as you started, Chakri, right? Trust is the most important point in financial world. So you're very cognizant of that from day one. So we started looking at what ISO 27000 means. When we build our platform, do we ensure that we are compliant? We bring all the security policies right from day one when we are taking customers' data. right? So that goes without saying. It's paramount. I know, one hack and you'll lose all your trust.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And that will be the end of the journey.
Okay.
So very cognizant of that. Make sure that, that is already ingrained in the system.
Congratulations and good luck for your journey. And thanks for sharing your thoughts and insights.
Thanks, Chakri. Thank you.
Shiva, maybe if you can touch base like your experiences, your challenges, and your journey.
Sure. So glad to be part of this panel and really hear from Neeraj and what's coming up. So my name is Shiva Prasad. I run a fintech startup, very young startup based out of Hyderabad. But my focus has been building a fintech platform for marginal community. I wanted to really understand how can you bring the new to credit, people into the formal banking system. So there was a very big advantage and disadvantage at the same time. Technology can do a lot of things, but the reach out is a big problem. India is a very execution-driven country. So you can build something in your office, but to get it out there and push it is really, really important. I think that's where collaboration came into play. So we've looked at National Street Vendor Association, partnered with them, where we can lend to a street vendor at a sub-merchant level. Right? And that started happening. We've got the product out there. And I'll quickly tell you the journey a vendor can now do, right? So the agent goes to the vendor's vending unit. He doesn't go to the bank. And an agent onboards the vendor right on a mobile platform. Aadhaar KYC is checked. We check the vendor's validity that he's actually a licensed vendor by the urban local body. We then pick up the vendor's bank account, do a penny drop in them, and know that they have an active bank account which we can lend to. We then look at their QR code, which is the UPI stack, to know that they have an active UPI address, and then they can start doing digital transactions. While in this journey, this is the first time in the country where a street vendor actually signs a loan agreement digitally. So it's like an Aadhaar-based OTP digital signature. Once that is done, we actually do one liveliness check in the end, where a vendor gives us a selfie. We check and we match it with their Aadhaar selfie. So we really want to build that Aadhaar database also up to date, rather than having depleted biometric data. So the percentage callback we get, if it's less than 55%, we ask them to go and upgrade their biometrics and come back again. But the whole flow is where a vendor now gets, let's say, a 10,000 rupees loan directly to their bank account in a single straight-through flow. It doesn't need to go anywhere, right? And then and India is a big problem with collections, right? Yeah. So we all know, okay, you can digitally lend, but how would you collect? That was a big challenge. So we've approached NPCI UPI product team. And AutoPay as a product from UPI has been fantastic. We partnered with Paytm. And now a vendor can repay on UPI stack. He can repay as low as 90 rupees a day. So they don't need to go to the bank. It's an ECS job which runs on their bank account. Money is debited back to the local. So I'm really exploring this category. Okay. And I'm believing that with the association and partnerships, we can really reach out to a lot of vendors, especially during pandemic and phase 2. We've seen a lot of migrants going back and they're coming back. So from a livelihood standpoint, I'll tell you, this is what I'm proud to have Telangana state, for being part of this innovation cell where they've organized a boot camp from a social impact standpoint. Got it. And I really want to congratulate them because we participated and we learned how do we calculate metrics from a social impact standpoint because of your digital intervention. How does it change livelihood of these people, them and their own family, right? So that really brings out a rich data in about a year or two for us to really say, yes, you've gone digital, but how did it impact livelihoods, right? And that level of social return of investment capture, I think Telangana state government has actually taught us with a lot of programs they have done. So I really thank the government and we are glad that we are in Hyderabad. That we part of this panel. Yeah.
So Shiva, when you talked about the metrics part, right? Yep. So for any company to become successful, right? Yep. There are kind of key metrics, right? Key metrics in terms of your conversions or key metrics in terms of your traffic sessions and all, right? So what are the key things that during your journey that you think that these are some of the metrics that helped you to scale? Like, see, there are a lot of migrants moving across. Correct. Right? And while the migrants are moving across different places and all, you also may have to ensure that the metrics are properly collected. Absolutely. Because that is a source of your information and that helps you for your conversions and all, right? Correct. So how do you handle taken care and maybe some insights into that?
Sure. I think there are different models you can follow when you want to measure your impact, right? So one which we followed was a survey-based model in a before and after impact. So we take like two communities of, let's say, two ULBs, urban local local bodies, right? And everybody has, like, on one side you have vegetable sellers, one side you have fruit sellers, right? And let's say you want to survey 50 people on this side. So technically, you don't finance this set of people, but you finance this set of people, right? And you do a survey before and after, and it can be like a 3-month metric. And what it'll tell you is the livelihood of this set of people, how did that change compared to this set of people who you're not financed? Because now we are able to capture, because marginal community vaccination is a big challenge. So when the agent reaches out, now we're looking at capturing their vaccination data. Have you vaccinated or not? Can we do a campaign directly to you where, vaccination on wheels and everybody kind of gets vaccinated? So there is a lot of innovation which is driving all these changes. But I think from my perspective, we are for profit, but a very clear social impact kind of a startup. So any collaboration around this industry to build things, I think we are very agile as well, right? So we can turn things around very, very fast. Thank you.
So while coming to agility, I think especially in this kind of space that you are in, agility marks one of the important thing, because you need to also scale the systems, right? So I think that is a very good insight from you, and thank you, sir, and congratulations for your venture.
Thank you again. Thank you.
So now moving on to our next expert, Mr. Abhishek, maybe if you can give your insights, like what is your journey, challenges, and how you enabled or you tried to take advantage from the local players.
Sure. Well, thank you, Chakri. My name is Abhishek Banerjee. I'm the founder and Chief Executive Officer of Lotus Dew. We are a company that uses artificial intelligence to select stocks from global markets, both in India and US. So I'll explain a little bit about the journey. The journey was basically, spotting an opportunity. I'll give you a few key metrics. 4% of India have access to Indian capital markets. In US, it's 60%. The average consumption basket in India, 50 to 60% goes in education and healthcare, right? And as countries develop, this share decreases because you have more public support and public infrastructure where you need to spend less on education and healthcare, and the average public quality increases. So it gives you more discretionary ability to spend. And investments in India is still a discretionary basket where, after you've done everything, you go and think about investing instead of it being a saving-based idea. So that was one part. The second part is, we talk about financial inclusion, we talk about bottom of the pyramid, but there's a whole pyramid, right? So what I'm trying to say is that there's also inclusion problem across the pyramid. So think about this particular idea that a BlackRock from US invests passively in Indian markets. They have a huge sway on the voting of the company's affairs, right? And we have not re-democratized this voting power for ourselves for foreign companies. So for example, if we have a ethical opinion on a foreign player or a company, how do we express that, right? So there's a voting problem, and we think if we are able to enable Indian investors to invest abroad and investors abroad to invest in India, you can re-democratize this voting, which has been taken over largely by passive investors who have a voting policy which you might or might not agree to. So with these two problems and opportunities, we started our journey, and we started in D Labs in ISB. Oh, okay. My co-founder is a professor, Dr. Prachi Deskar. Her daughter and my son, they were in the same school, so we were sitting in a parents-teachers meeting, and what do you do and what do you do, and we realized philosophically we align very much on investments, and that's how it started. And then we went on the journey. We got a SEBI license, we got a US SEC license, also to look after investment opportunities for US resident customers. The journey was opportunities based, but what I realized in terms of ecosystem players is Hyderabad is very, very unique, right? We have a National Stock Exchange office, we have a RBI office, we have a SEBI office locally. So from a regulatory standpoint, you have all the regulators who are locally available to you. And my experience with SEBI local office was they were very encouraging to enable professional players come in and manage investment advisory business or help them get started. So in terms of local ecosystem, you have T-Hub, which has a huge sway on how startups are viewed in India. We have access to talent like Triple IT. You have ISB. You have IIT Hyderabad. So and compared to a different city which has higher cost of living, Hyderabad is very, very amenable to a startup community where your cost is one of your major concerns to begin with, right? So we feel that that has helped us a lot. Okay. And yeah, I mean, the journey forward is that we have been able to basically capture this kind of ecosystem, asset management is going to be a huge, driver of, like we had IT in 90s, where you just need a computer, some talent and time to capture this. This kind of opportunity does exist in front of us, and we are at the very foothills of it.
Just to ask you a couple of things, sir, on when you are trying to explain this. So since more of these stock exchange things are involved in your thing, so how does this credit policies and the RBI guidelines, how are you able to manage, or did you get enough support from your local players, or anything that you want to tell basically to the local players? If these are taken care, I mean, for someone who is trying to replicate your model, what are the beneficials that they can get out of it?
RBI, we are regulated because we collect foreign exchanges income. To that extent, but I think there are, apart from what regulators can do, I was actually thinking how entrepreneurs can be helped. Few of the things that I think about is that for example, we as entrepreneurs, we need to have our own health insurance, right? So if there is any opportunity for government to provide a central health insurance for all the entrepreneurs who are registered with the DFP, or if our kids can go to a school which is, for example, Kendriya Vidyalaya, which is possibly not available to normal private citizens. So some of these efforts where governments can help us, share the, let's say, ecosystem that they have developed for their employees, and recognize entrepreneurs as somebody in their fold to help them access some of the public infrastructure. So that could be very interesting.
And one more thing that came up to my mind while you are telling about the asset management, right? I mean, we know that most of the data we are trying to utilize the cloud space and all, and also for the asset management kind of thing, use the technologies like blockchain and other stuff, so that we get more of digitized. And while this data grows, I mean, we will try to, if any other model is that, or any other company is trying to replicate, they can utilize both these. I mean, it need not be. Sometimes what happens is a specific company, though they are using a cloud-enabled services, are building a blockchain. I mean, I think in future it will come to a kind of a scenario where we will be sharing across. I mean, like if there are 5 kind of same domain expertise kind of a companies, they are working together, they need not replicate even having a different cloud experience or a different blockchain-based solutions. Maybe they come in a model where they can share those resources, right? And I think that will be the future thought process. While I think some people are already working on it, and where we will get the privilege to, like how we are taking advantage, as you said, like taking advantage of T-Hub, tomorrow we will be taking advantage of taking these shared services as well. And though it started, I think, phenomenally in the fintech space, I think that will be the way forward direction, where typically, because we will have a lot of assets, because we need to do a lot of transactions, and we also, like we heard from Neeraj and Shiva sir, like when we move into tier 2, tier 3 kind of cities, and when we work with people on the street vendors and all, and our population and our data will be in trillions, right? And we cannot afford to have cloud or like a singleton cloud or a blockchain based on specific service. I think shared service and managed service will become more and more forward.
Just to give you an example, right? You would be surprised to know asset management generates probably the most data or banking. NSE, for example, they generate about 350 GB of data every day, right? You compare that to Twitter, they generate half that, if I got my math right. But my point is that there is a lot of need for data warehousing, data storage, and cloud-based infrastructure for capital markets. And there are 20 lakh lawyers in India. There are about 1.3 million doctors. There are only 1,000 investment advisors, right? So this is just serving 4% of Indian population. And as we scale in the next 10 years, this 4% will become probably 20%, and then the discretionary basket for healthcare and education will decrease a lot. So you have this two-way thing opening up. That's the opportunity.
Yeah, and interesting, your last point has triggered the main theme of the event, right? When you said we have only few thousands of investors or kind of people who knows this domain expertise in this particular space, so we need to kind of restore that, and that is where we complement each other. I mean, rather than each one creating their own space, if you can pass that knowledge share the knowledge, and I think we will collectively succeed and become the next unicorns, every one of us. Okay, thank you so much, sir. And now moving on to Rahul. Maybe Rahul, you could give your experiences, your journey and challenges and insights to us.
Definitely. Thank you, Chakri. I think it's fantastic on this panel. I feel that what we're doing is just right. We are an enabler for FinTechs.
Yeah.
We're a tech fin for FinTechs. We've built the core platform that FinTechs can innovate upon. And today we're working with more than 460 customers across India, Africa, and Southeast Asia.
Okay.
We started out in 2015, and I think our journey has been nothing short of phenomenal. We had our ups and downs. We learned. But one thing that we really understood is that what we're doing is right, because the kind of customer feedback, the kind of customer validation that we're getting on the product right from the beginning was fantastic. And I was hearing to all of you say that, the best feedbacks come from the customer. And it is cooperative research that you build into a product, a community-based approach. I think that's what we've taken. We've listened to our customer, heard their real problems, what they were doing on ground, what they wanted to achieve from technology, and that's how we built a platform. So our platform is a cloud-based enterprise SaaS platform for lending. And when we were selling in 2015, we had to teach people what SaaS is, what cloud technology would do. But today, we're telling people how they can be more compliant. We have a bank that's gone live on our SaaS today. So that's a validation that SaaS is definitely the way forward. It's highly scalable, more robust, and I think the build or buy decision is not relevant today. It's innovate or not innovate. So if you want to innovate, if you want to be relevant to today, you need to be always above the scale of technology, the innovation that's happening. And with players like ours, I think we're speaking to so many people. We are understanding the real problems, and we're building. So our technology would be more and has to be more innovative, and that's what we're working on today. From our journey, I think Telangana, we started out in Hyderabad. We started selling to customers in this, the city. Then we moved to Telangana. Then the country opened up. So we took a phased approach, and today we are across India. The kind of support we got from this ecosystem of Hyderabad, I think it's more to do with the city, because it's such a melting pot of culture that anybody would want to love and call it home. Right, the cost of living is less, the city is beautiful, the infrastructure is fantastic. We're sitting in one of the best ecosystems, startup ecosystems in the world. And I think the talent that we're sourcing is also great. I think my team members have really contributed to where we are today. And without this city, without being in Hyderabad, I think it would have been a little difficult. And I think this has made us more comfortable that we now see ourselves moving from Telangana to India to also going global. And that's something really close to my heart, because I want to take AllCloud from a local player to a global player. We've done some achievement. We have a bank using our platform in Philippines today. We have a couple of customers in Africa. Today we're speaking to, I think, more than 20, 25 different customers across different countries. And I'm really optimistic about our growth story on this part.
So interestingly, you said a word when you started off like more than a fintech, it's like tech fin, right? So when you're creating a platforms like in the context of cloud and SaaS, right? Typically these platforms require a niche technology and skill. I mean, the talent pool is very much important for your success, right? So when you started up as a startup, like did you get the right kind of talent, and what is your journey or challenges in, because whatever technology you are talking about, cloud or SaaS, it's like a new beginning for everyone, right? One is getting the right talent. Number two, once you have a talent, you also need to accommodate to these technologies, right? So what kind of challenges did you face when you are trying to get the right mix of talent to build your platforms?
So I'll take you back to 2015. So AllCloud is co-founded between me, Ankit, and Ashish.
Okay.
And Ashish is the cloud in the AllCloud. So he has immense experience on technology. Ankit comes from background of Infosys, delivering products to large banks. And that's where we've built on. I think what we did is we hired people not with this degree or a skill set, but we understood what they could achieve. We started training them on different aspects. We've trained people on AWS's different platforms very recently. We're trying to upskill our people. I know that we'll not be able to hire a fresher directly who's worked on cloud technology, but then if he's got the skill set, if he's got the entrepreneurial mindset that we need, we can definitely upskill them, and that's what we've done in so many years. And we've seen a lot of team members, have been with us, have grown with us, and I think that's the way forward, that you upskill, you accommodate, and you then create a team that definitely pushes you for more innovation, for more development, and doing things very swiftly.
And it's a good experience what you have explained. And recently, I'm seeing a lot of universities, right? I mean, especially in the kind of technology like BTech or MTech or in the administration, MBA. So now everyone started focusing FinTech as a main subject. I mean, earlier you have something like MTech in electrical or computer science or something. Now you see most of the universities started rolling out specifically subject on FinTech, right? So predominantly I think we are not only adapting to the technology, I mean, while the ecosystem, right? Every university, every player in the ecosystem are, that is a wonderful thing that you should know and experience. Like a lot of people are fine-tuning and adapting to the need of the hour, and that is also helping now people coming out from the universities having that knowledge. So for you, I mean, acquiring the right talent is becoming easier. And also one more, in recent forums people told that the HR is trying to do the interviews, apart from their normal education records, that credentials that they look at, they're also looking at, when they're trying to figure out for a specific niche talent, they're also seeing if someone has did something. Maybe their credentials may be less in terms of their marks or percentage, but typically if they are able to have a certification in something like on the cloud or SaaS, or these guys are able to clear those. I mean, they're giving more preference to that, because at the end of the day, what requires is what type of talent is coming and what is the value they are generating. Because while we talk, somebody is already building it, right? And so we need to have everything right in place. And government like Telangana is enforcing like some of these as part of their curriculum in the academics. And they're bringing in the right type of technical education aspects. I mean, you need not wait for even graduation to complete. They are starting at maybe at the mid-school level, some of the basics of the terminology, so that this will also help people to evolve and along with the domain and technology. Okay, so I think you want to add something to that.
No, so this is a pet peeve of ours, right? We are 30-member tech team.
Okay.
But we find it hard to recruit people, right? and mostly so because Rahul said great point about upskilling them.
Yeah.
We also try and do that. But the challenges which we see are two. One, every big shop has set up a shop in Hyderabad now, whether it's Facebook, Uber, Google. To compete against them obviously is a tough task, right? Obviously culture building helps, right? But what we are witnessing is not only upskilling people, but retaining them is a challenge. I don't know, I would love to hear from you, how are you guys doing it? But at 30 people, we are still trying it fine, difficult to hire.
Okay. So I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, I think if you have any questions from the audience,
Yeah, there are a couple of questions, but I think you are trying to answer something.
Yeah, so I would say that, at 30 people, you find it difficult. We have a much smaller team. The thing that we have found very successful is that we ask our team members to, bring in their friends. I think, we do not engage recruiters. It's always through referrals, which we have found, because they are more sticky, right? Because there's some sort of camaraderie there. But it's also very hard because, as you said, the competition is people who are willing to pay way more. So the excitement and the vision is way more important, I think.
I just saw PhonePe is now offering BMW bikes.
Yeah, BharatPe.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, my bad. Difficult to compete.
Yeah.
Right.
Just add on to this one. I think growing team is not really hard, but it's that you build teams, sub-teams, so you create leaders under you. That's what we've done. We have a line of second-generation leaders that are actually holding on to our team. So we're about 105 now, and I think that's the way we've built our team. It's not that the retention is not the HR's job. It's the job of all the managers, all the leaders, and all the team members.
And also, when we are touching upon this agility, right? Earlier we used to have the Scrum team means 10 people member team. Now with the startups coming in, the Scrum team will be 2 people. and release cycles have gone down from 1 week to even 1 day or 1 hour. So that is the kind of agility we are looking at. So I think just wrapping up, before that we have a couple of questions. I think especially Neeraj, both are falling on to you. But the first one, I think one of the anonymous user was asking, like, what about the chit fund frauds? I mean, this is in the context of how do you take care of risk mitigation mechanisms, right, with chit funds are adopting. I mean, we know that while we are one side telling that we need to focus on trust and give a financial freedom, and at the other hand, you also look at risk, right? I mean, because you lose your credibility. I mean, one small thing can goof up everything, right? So how do you handle this risk mitigation, right?
Sure. No, so it's a publicized data. Again, if I got my math right, I think 13% cost of credit is on fraud. Right, so fraud obviously plays a big role, and you have to mitigate it. You have to be one step ahead. It's a running journey, right, with the fraudsters. But on chit funds, I want to clear the air. There's registered chit fund, unregistered chit fund. Parliament has passed a law. Unregistered chit funds are illegal. So people who are investing in unregistered chit funds, if they can move to registered chit funds, it's much better. I know there are a few friction points, but it's much better. How do we manage? Again, there are multiple things which we do. From a risk mitigation perspective, technology helps, right? So if you can see whether a PDF is superimposed, we can figure it out now very easily. We triangulate the data with bank, so people who have made payments into chit with bank, we are able to figure that out very easily now. So multiple things which we have built, which helps us in risk mitigation, especially around fraud. Do we still see fraud? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, there is always a room to do fraud. I mean, and you also come with your counter kind of solutions, be it software, hardware, or kind of combination. So
it's a one-upmanship.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? you move one step, the fraudster also moves one step.
Yeah.
Ahead.
So the follow-up, there is another question to you, Neeraj. Like, how are you going after market coverage and grow your customer base as you grow in other states beyond Telangana?
Sure. So we already have moved to Andhra now. We have roughly around 12 branches in Andhra. Okay. Next, obviously, in journey is Telangana. We are in the process of hiring the RSM and RCM there, or regional sales head and regional credit head there. Across south of India, all the 5 state chit funds are very, very popular, and especially registered chit funds are very, very popular. So that makes our life easy. We know it's a scalable model. What we have to do is ensure that the local practices are adopted, right? Because we are a very touch and feel company as well. We believe that as long, our entire process is digitized, but we still give people a physical, touch. Okay. So our sales guys do go and meet the customer. Unless you speak the same language, unless you know the local nuances, unless you know how chit funds operate in that area, right? Because multiple chit funds operate in a different form. So you have to adopt that practice. Just to give you one example, some of the chit funds have open chit concept, where some of them have closed chit concept, which means first 6 months you can't bid, right? So and it's more popular in Tamil Nadu, so you have to adopt that. So we do that research, but after once you have done that, it's very, very easy to scale and grow in different states.
Thanks so much for the inputs. I think that's all I have for the questions, and thank you everyone for sharing your inputs, insights, and your journey. And predominantly, as I said, most of these things are very useful, especially for people who are trying to replicate the models and create their own startup from bootstrap and all, right? I mean, these insights will help. Because when we started off 5 years back, I think we don't have these kind of forums or kind of panels where we used to discuss. We need to Google search, and we used to go with our experiences. But definitely, I think with these kind of forums and with your experts talking and giving the insights firsthand is always useful. Thank you so much, and it's really helpful for us. Thank you.
Where there is life, there is hope, there is meaning. But life has its downs as much as its ups. Life is about challenges. Life is about opportunities. Time for joy, time for celebration, and time to introspect. Thankfully, in every one of life's moments, and even beyond life itself, there's LIC. Where there is life, there's always LIC. Zindagi ke saath bhi, zindagi ke baad bhi.